Good afternoon. Welcome to another episode of JRC. I'm your host, Tiffany Daniels. We'll get back to the JRC in a moment, but first, the disclaimers and the trigger warnings. If you're unfamiliar with the Stop the Shocks campaign or the campaign against the troubled teen industry, pertinent links are going to be there in the description box. We have, as usual, Autistic Hoya's massive archive on the subject. The article written by Neuroclastic, the very same one that the JRC threatened Neuroclastic with a defamation lawsuit over if they didn't remove it from their website, where they interviewed over 800 ABA professionals in regards to the JRC's so-called behavior modification program. Of course, Neuroclastic refused, guys, so please read the article and share it. We also have Neuroclastic's GoFundMe, because unlike the JRC, in spite of what the JRC wants you to believe, we do not have access to unlimited funding. In case they ever do see through with their threat. Trigger warnings when we discuss places like the Judge Rotenberg Educational Center or Agape Boarding School for Boys. You're going to hear vivid descriptions of and catch clips or surveillance footage of people with mental health issues and disabled people being tortured and abused. If you do got young children present, please utilize the headphones. Also, this channel is marked not for kids for a reason. We use profanity and speak on dark subjects. If your child's 16 and younger and watching, parental supervision is advised. When we do any comments from the JRC, trigger warning, you're going to hear gaslighting, piss poor character assassination, and victim blaming galore. Because of those things, you are going to hear me react with profanity probably every other word. If that's the sort of thing that offends you, it will not make me mad at all if you want to put this video on pause, but if you do, I do still ask you to take a look at the description box, take a look at some of the evidence yourself. That way, you'll still be able to get that information and share it with others, okay? Alright, where we left off last time. By contrast, evidence of actual benefits exists in spades. Again, where? Where is all this evidence? Is it in the room with us? Is all this evidence of these wonderful benefits from the same, hidden in the same magical land where AH's mountain of evidence lives? And probably multiple one pairs of socks where, my pairs would disappear and I'd only have one left. You guys know where I'm going with that, alright? Maybe that's where my passport magically transferred over to as well. All this mythical evidence. Somehow, nobody seems to have ability to actually get their hands on it. Crazy world we live in, right? As outlined above, the patients who have ESD as a part of their treatment programs have seen a precipitous drop in SIB and AB, which has either completely or mostly eliminated the horrific physical injuries they were causing to themselves and others. Here we go again. Here we go again. No, JRC. What we're not going to be doing is victim blaming, saying this is what they were doing to themselves. We had no choice. If we wanted them to stop causing themselves such horrific injuries, then we have to what? Have to what, JRC? Have to what? Because in this scenario, you are simply switching out abusers. What I mean by that is, yes, we have self-injurious behaviors, abuse of self, right? I'm not telling you it doesn't happen. Again, I worked for the state, And my constituents, my consumers, weren't all exactly like me. They were on varying levels throughout the entirety of the spectrum. Okay? Why I am bringing up logic here, JRC, is it makes no sense. If I'm abusing myself, how is it better to, instead of me abusing myself, having a direct care staff to do the abusing instead? Can you explain that one to me? So here I'm at. I got self-injurious behaviors. I've got bruises around areas of the forehead. Maybe there's a chunk missing because me and Wall got some head banging time going on. Bruises around the legs and up in the arms area. Okay, we're going to start there, right? Say I have all of those things. Okay. So the logic is, we are going to stop you from abusing yourself well, we're going to take over that, and we're going to be the ones abusing you instead. And instead of visible injuries, you're going to have the internal injuries that only become visible when they get so extreme that said injuries can no longer be hidden. But that's better, right? I mean, at least you don't have such obvious physical injuries that you caused yourself. Can somebody explain to me why this is supposed to make sense? Because it sounds like something that came out of a think tank of a group of individuals full of sociopaths, psychopaths, and sadists. How is switching out me abusing myself with instead you abusing me instead? How does that change the situation any? But what? I'm more aesthetically pleasing? Because the injuries are no longer quite as easily seen as previously? How the fuck is that an improvement? Internal injuries are some of the most insidious and deadly, specifically because you can't tell by simply looking at a person. Internal bleeding ring any bells? Strokes? Seizures? At least seizures if you're able to get the person to a safe place first before they start seizing and dropping, and yeah. Do you understand what I'm saying, JRC? You're not changing the dynamic in any real way that actually produces real quality of life. But they're not doing it to themselves anymore. No, they may not be, but you still are, which means, one way or the other, the student is still being abused. Just because it's a direct care staff abusing them, instead of them abusing themselves, doesn't mean that that's a better situation. Regardless, they're getting abused. You are treating abuse, self-injurious behavior, with abuse. And then you want us to believe that the benefits are so wonderful, the very temporary benefits of simply interrupting one behavior within a short period of time. Obviously, you need to get the Nobel Peace Prize for this. Your scare tactics don't work with me, JRC. I have been around this stuff my whole life. Healthcare. When I eventually came into this particular area of the field myself, the fact that I still act as mentor and advisor on many different groups, many different occasions, you cannot tell me that that's better. Why is it better if a direct care staff abuses me instead of me abusing myself? Because either way, the person in the question is still getting abused. Just because the injuries are not quite as immediate and easy to see as when, I don't know, I slam my head into the wall a few times, doesn't mean that they're somehow less. It's the hidden injuries that are the scariest. Okay? It's not that hard to figure out. Switching out abusers does not change the situation. Okay? It doesn't become better that someone else is doing it to me, as opposed to me doing it to myself. The kid is still stuck in the same situation. They are still being abused and injured. Therefore, what you're proposing is not a damn answer. And I know you're going to list all of these injuries as a way to shock people into, well, maybe in the toughest situations. No, folks. And I know you all know better than that. There are times when things may need to be used to get somebody under control. This isn't that. No matter how much the JRC tries to convince you otherwise. Trading one abuser for another, even if the first abuser of you is you, and then switching it out instead over to a direct care staff, does not change the situation. The person is still being abused. We're going to read through your line, JRC. And then we're going to go ahead and close this one out, alright? Let's go through this nonsense. Hair loss from repeated pulling and tearing, retinal detachment, skin lacerations, bites, broken bones, rhabdomyolysis, concussions and other head injuries, or other serious injuries. For people who are put on an electrical shock device, designed specifically for it to be painful for the recipients who are forced to wear them. Shooting high volts of electricity through tiny little nodes attached directly to specific skin muscles on the torso, on the backs of the calves, on the backs of the arms, on the back. Okay? Shooting that much electricity into one concentrated area at such a high volume, who knows what kind of muscle and tissue damage that does internally that doesn't necessarily immediately become visible. That level of voltage, which is so high, it actually burns through the pain sensors, the sensors for feeling on that area of the skin just right above the muscle, so that that place loses all feeling. That's just on the light side. The JRC has told us that they have used this device on children with heart issues. Couldn't possibly see how that could go wrong. What about the kids with seizures, where they completely remove their meds and they're stuck on that shock collar? And because the JRC direct care staff is so piss poor trained, they can't tell the difference between someone who's having a fucking grand mal and somebody who's having a behavior, so you punish them while they're already seizing. Yes, I've seen the paperwork, JRC. In fact, one of the first deaths caused by you, JRC, was due to the fact that you considered them moaning in pain as having a behavior and then administered over 80,000 physical Aversives over a 3-day period. And finally, after 3 days, when it didn't stop, did you take her to the ER where she died from an ulcer of all things? So yeah, your shock and awe doesn't work here. It doesn't become good just because you are replacing someone's self-injurious abuse towards themselves with having a direct care staff to abuse them instead. It's still the same situation, and it is not building a better quality of life. And again, do I have to explain masking and emotion suppression to you all? Because at this point, maybe I'll tattoo it in small letters on your forehead so when you look in the mirror you can read it, instead of me having to regurgitate it every single day, every single video. Masking exists. Suppressing emotions exist. They're usually utilized by us neurodivergent folk as a means of survival, which means the so-called improvements that you are seeing is me doing something out of fear so I won't be further abused. It's not a victory. Okay? Anything gained by means of fear will be lost later in autistic burnout when they leave your evil place. I know this because I am a survivor of childhood. You all know that. And how many skills that I lost and grades dropped that I kept up all through the entirety of the time where I was being horrifically abused. That's what emotion suppression and masking does to you. Eventually, there will be a shutdown of some kind. One cannot keep that up forever. Any temporary outward signs that we're doing so much better because of the device, it can't be done forever. Believe me, I've tried. Okay? So you can sit here and list all those injuries all you want to. It still doesn't take away from the fact that your logic isn't logicking. Your quality of life doesn't, miraculously get better just because you're switching out one abuser for another. I have no idea why in this day and age I have to explain this in such detail, but with the JRC and the current insanity that's going on in my country right now, here the fuck we are. Alright, we're going to continue on this one real quick. I know this is a little bit longer, but yeah. The FDA has not contested and cannot contest the severity of lethality of these behaviors. Oh, fuck me. Nobody's contesting what the consequences can be from these behaviors. Especially not me, because guess what, JRC? I was that child. Not that long ago. I joke about being old, but in actuality, 40 years is not really that long. Okay? Not that very long at all. But what life-threatening things did you do? How long you got? How long you got? See here. I tried strangling myself, drinking myself to death, suffocating myself with my own pillow, trying to put my head through the wall, multiple slamming my body down onto the floor, into walls, and into the sharp corners of my full walnut wood dresser. Concrete drainage ditch jumps. How long would you like me to go on? Because then there's the hydromorphone. Yeah. I'm aware of how lethal some of these behaviors can be. Including the ones that I have. Not had, but have. Because in reality, you never get rid of them entirely. They get far fewer and far in between, but they're still there. I am very well aware of the severity and lethality. And even if that wasn't my life experience, again, my mom's been in healthcare for over 40 damn years. I grew up around hospitals, in particular ER rooms, waiting for my parents to get off work. Patients come in with blades through their legs, or coming in because they are hyped up on drugs and have lashed themselves to hell. People coming in all kinds of ways of shapes, forms, screaming, out of control, bum rushing some of hospital staff. I have seen a lot. Okay? I am not contesting that these behaviors are not scary. They are. What I'm telling you is replacing me abusing myself with a direct care staff abusing me instead is not a change in the situation here. You're treating my own self-abuse with abuse. So much for better quality of life. But then the grades and everything get better. Yeah, fear's a hell of a motivator. Problem with it is, it only motivates for very short time periods, and usually cannot produce any long-term positive actual changes. There's a reason why corporal punishment is no longer mainly relied upon by parents of this day and age. Okay? I'm very well aware of how serious these behaviors are. I have had them, I've been around them, I've been around others that have had them. But you are still arguing to replace me abusing myself by having a direct care staff abusing me instead. And then using better grades suddenly out of fear to say, look at all the benefits. How long do you think that's going to last? How long do you think that's going to last? It doesn't last forever. Eventually those grades are going to tank. Eventually those behaviors are going to slowly start creeping themselves out to the surface because they were never properly dealt with in the first damn place. And guess what? You changed nothing. Nothing at all. You want to know how to do it right? You deal directly with the triggers. The best weapon in your arsenal that you could possibly have to help you best address the issues that are causing the very scary behaviors is that fucking full functional behavioral assessment. It is a tool. It is a guide. It is a fount of information to help make the best educated decisions in regards to not just the overall treatment program in the beginning, but how the treatment program, as we get better in some areas, worse in others, new things, that constantly evolves. That's how you deal with it. By getting to the root of the issues and working from there. Simply switching out one abuser for another does not really change the situation. The limited time boost in grades and paying attention and pretending that I like people that I despise with the entirety of my cold, dark, black heart doesn't mean my quality of life has improved. It means I'm showing you what you want to see so that possibly that may mean less abuse for me. Doing that for you is exhausting. There is inevitably a crash. When that crash happens, the behaviors come back. So you can list all these injuries till kingdom come, JRC, but trying to argue that switching out me abusing me with you abusing me is somehow better doesn't make sense to anybody with two brain cells to rub together. We're going to close out on that. We don't get very many views on this channel, and the few we do tend to get removed from time to time. Please don't forget to hit the like button, hit subscribe, and please don't forget to utilize the comments. I appreciate your time, and as always, we here at Spilling Tea hope you have a good one. I'll see you all in a few minutes. Bye, everyone.